right, welcome to Reads and Weeds, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you, Shelly?
I am good. Hey, Colin.
Hey, Shelly.
Hey, thanks for fixing the stuff, and I hope it is working over there.
It's working over here on my end.
Okay. So here we are. We're talking about packing for Mars. Where's my book? Do you have it up on your? Oh, it would be just so incredibly weird if I didn't have a book, but I might not. Oh my God, I don't have it. Good thing I took a lot of notes and you can find it for me. So, the reason why I'm so excited about today is I feel like you and I have been talking into each other for probably 2 years, at least, right?
Yeah.
Because either through just, oh good, and you're going to be there. That'll be perfect. Okay. So on the show.
You want to be on here, like right next to, but it doesn't matter.
That's fine. That's fine. That would be great. So on this show, I developed the show because I like to smoke weed and talk about books with people.
Okay.
Period. End of concept. That's it. That's the whole pitch right there.
Oh, deal.
And you, well, okay, so I'm going to start with this is your first time on the show.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you coming. We're going to talk about Packing for Mars by Mary Roach. And how can I not? You know what I did? I put it in a different verse right at the last minute. I'm going to stop talking about how stupid that was. Now let's go away. And take a minute and kind of a rundown or kind of cannabis involvement accolades, like what all you do, and stay like close to the mic. So,
Okay.
And your full name is Cynthia Shelby Lane. Shelby Lane. Shelby Lane. Okay. MD. Where are you going, Colin?
I'm trying to figure out a place where I can put this mic that's not going to block her or you.
Yeah, that's fine. That looks good.
Okay. It's right in your face.
I can sort of see myself.
It's right in your face.
Oh, there we go. That looks good.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, so because I knew you were a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and then I saw you at a comedy thing, and we talked about cannabis, and then I saw you at another kind of network. And so just give me all the whole rundown.
So I keep bumping into you because I'm involved with the Michigan Cannabis Society organization and people. And as a medical doctor, I certify people in Michigan for medical marijuana. Shout out to me.
Yay! Yay! So if you're out there and you're looking for a certification, and have you been doing telemedicine?
I've been doing telemedicine. It was complicated in the beginning of the pandemic, but then it's working.
Yeah. And tell me, what is the site where people find you? Because you told me before that.
So most of the time, people will find me just roaming around the internet, someplace Shelby Lane MD, and they'll find me through my website, ShelbyLaneMD.com. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you can go to marijuanadoctors.com. Okay. In Michigan, and find my name and touch it. I want to make an appointment. So.
Okay. I thought there was another site that you were getting books through. That was weird, or didn't
Weed Monster.
Weed Monster.
And the best marijuana doctors, there's in Leafly and all those kind of places. But I started advertising, but I really focus on marijuana doctors.
Okay. So you certify patients, and then what else?
Besides that, with marijuana, I am actually 3rd year in, hopefully the 4th, I'm on the Scientific Advisory Committee for the National Cannabis Industry Association. Some incredible stuff. Really. I'm a doctor/scientist, but not the researcher kind. And then these people on the committee are incredible. They're PhDs, chemists, pharmacists, and I'm the doctor. I feel like lonely. I feel like I'm in the wilderness. But I wrote a paper last year on vaping, safeties of vaping, and then it got pushed to the side because of the big committee, and then became vaping and COVID-19. What's going to happen with vaping, COVID? You know, should you vape? Should you not vape because of all that stuff that went down last year in November?
And have people been able to see or read these papers if they're a member of National Cannabis Industry Association, or you do webinars through there, or
yes.
What do you? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So paper, I did a webinar on labeling, cannabis labeling. You know, cannabis now, weed has labels, but safe was not safe, but you should expect milligrams and dosage. You did something with NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, talking about dosing, and just did a webinar on butt tenders. That's my favorite. That was my favorite.
That's what I was.
Because I always feel like I'm a butt tender.
Yeah.
Like, so indica, sativa, CBD percentages. You're always talking health, but butt tenders can't say things, but I can. So I had to learn fast about how to be a butt tender without touching the flower.
Oh, because people also come to you just for counseling.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so tell me a little bit about how that works in case somebody out there's listening and they're just like, I have a friend right now, but she's in a different state, so I don't know if you can help someone in a different state. She's trying to call me and say, what do I take for anti-anxiety? What is near me? And she's in Florida, and I don't know if I can help her, but like, what do you find that you're talking to people about the most?
The most common thing is chronic pain.
Okay.
Then you get into things like MS, seizures, looking at the whole plant, the spectrum, THCA, THC, CBDA, all those chemicals that you thought of marijuana as THC. That was it. But there's all these little fractions that help, and people need to know. I would suggest, I can't tell you, it's not a prescription, that you use this versus that. And look at some of the things that are coming down the pipe. I'm in like a marijuana sort of meeting about 3 times a week now.
Oh,
So
wow.
last week was Snoop Dogg.
Okay. So that's the other thing. So I didn't get to make that meeting because I was doing something else. I was already I might have been doing this. Like I might have even had this because it was a Cannabis Connect, which is now Sensi,
Right.
run by Jamie Cooper, who
Yes.
we love.
Yes.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi,
If you're
Jamie.
listening. She's awesome. She does all kinds of great things.
Yeah.
So the networking meeting 2 weeks ago had Snoop in it.
Yes. Well, I thought he was going to talk and it was all waiting.
Yeah.
And he just played music and smoked. But it was good. It's all his other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was nice because we were there and he would look at us and sort of say something like, "Hi, is that me?" I'm not touching Zoom. I'm not touching that. So
Right. He just was hanging.
yeah,
He was just hanging.
It was a good meeting too. And actually, you learn so much from industry people.
Yeah.
And it's all blackballed for so many years.
Yeah.
And talk about it. So here we are today talking about
I know. Yeah. Like last week, two people I reached out on one, like it was Michigan Cannabis Professionals, which thank you for that site too. And I'm losing that guy's name in my mind right now.
Harry Barash.
Harry Barash. Thank you, Harry Barash. Like I asked about security cameras last week and I asked about powdery mildew. And immediately got all of this information, and it was so great. One quick question, and I checked Facebook hours later and get all this information, and it's great.
It's great. I'm on the Michigan. On the Minority Cannabis Business that organization also.
Yes.
I just joined so much. National Cannabis Nurses Association, the National Cannabis Legal Association. So I'm not an attorney.
Right.
But I can pay $75 to join their organization. They have to pay $3,000. So it's like, so I get the benefit.
That seems like a good deal.
Yeah, like don't be an attorney, don't be a doctor. Pay the student rate. So it's fun, and all the meetings got canceled this year.
Oh, I know, it sucks. Yeah, I was just about to sign up for the Shanty Creek Michigan Cannabis Industry Association. It was because I was the membership director for a little while, from October to like May. And we talked about Shanty Creek and how fun it was going to be in July to be on the lake with everybody. And I was so excited. And then it got moved to August. And I just realized last night I was going to pull the trigger and sign up for it. It's going to be awesome. Found out friends of mine are going and already signed up. And it's the same week I'm going to see my family in South Carolina. So I can't go. But it's okay. It made it easier for me because anyway. Yeah. So let me ask you this before we jump in. So let me tell you, Colin, that the reason why I was so excited, I read this book, Packing for Mars by Mary Roach, a few years ago when I was kind of on a Mary Roach tear. And if you don't know who she is, Mary Roach is a scientific author that writes really funny books. And so they usually have one word title, like Gulp is about your digestive system, Stiff is about cadavers, and Packing for Mars is about NASA and astronauts and all the things that we have done and studied and all the weird things that you never think about that it takes to get someone in zero gravity and survive. And that whole journey. And so I had read this book a few years ago and no one was reading it when I read it. And then I saw you post when there was like a NASA announcement. And you were like, way to go.
Yeah,
you
that-
know, and I'm
on
like,
May-
oh my God, we
on-
gotta talk about
Right.
this.
On May 30th, the astronauts went and they're on the space station right now.
Yes.
So that's, and I've been to launches before. So
Oh my God.
it's just incredible. It's been my whole life wanting to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I should just ready to be an astronaut all my life. Never made it, but
Yeah. Okay. So tell me this. Tell me this. So when did you start? And like, when was the first year that you applied? And we'll get into the book a little bit, but I
Mhm.
just want to know because you're, I think, the only person I know personally
Mhm.
who has applied to be an astronaut a bunch
Yeah.
of times.
yeah, but
So I want to know what it's like.
so I just finished my residency in Houston as a surgeon, and I was coming home, and then all of a sudden NASA was, and so all of a sudden NASA was said we're going to have another batch of astronauts to fly, and I'm like, oh wow, it's a good, I hate Houston, so I applied. It was 1979,
Yeah.
and I get. And the thing is, I applied at the very last minute. Your application had to be stamped, postmarked 11:59 p.m. on December 31st. I didn't go downtown from my house in Detroit until like 11:15, 11:20. I got to the post office. There was not like a huge line, but there was a line. And my heart was pounding. And all of a sudden, I get to the front, and I was like, I give the application to the postal clerk. I said, can you stamp it? Make sure it's stamped right now in front of me so it's before midnight. And she did. And then I went, sat back in the car. And I'm like, I said, oh shoot, I just applied to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
And the whole like my whole body just changed because you did it because you applied, you know. And then they called me. They called me for an interview in March, and I was working as an ER doctor. Uh, and told my boss, I said, you know what? I'm so grateful for the job that you gave me here. I'm a chief at Hudson Hospital. I said, but they applied, they want me to be come down for an astronaut. I said, I don't know what I should do. He said, you don't know what you should do. You're going. And so I got on the plane on a Sunday, got there on a Sunday night. They have a meeting immediately. And I think in that batch of people, there were like over 3,000 people who applied, and they interviewed 120 people. And so I had to go do that 44-hour interview. I met a lot of astronauts, met the flight astronauts.
Wait a minute. So the application you fill out a how many page application?
It's right here. I don't know, maybe 12.
Oh my God, you have it.
Maybe 12 or 15 pages.
Oh my gosh.
And because they sent it back to me because I kept applying. But it's a lot of stuff, and it's all handwritten. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't on a computer. It's handwritten. I did calligraphy back in the day.
Sure.
so
Beautiful.
it was beautiful. And I get there and I go through the interview. You have a 24-hour urine, the jug that you have to carry around. So everybody at NASA knows that you're an astronaut candidate applicant. They know
Because you're carrying around
because you're
your
carrying
urine.
around the jug, yeah. And there's like 50 buildings, 50 modular
Oh my
buildings.
God. Would you have ever thought that was happening?
No.
A bunch of astronauts. Did you have any idea that you would be carrying around a jug of urine?
I had no idea what was going on. The first night on Sunday night, they said, okay, you want to be an astronaut, you want you to go back to your room and you're going to write why I want to be an astronaut, like you're in the 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I had no clue. So I had to write it out, and I'm writing, I've already done all this.
Yeah.
Paperwork.
Yeah.
No, why I want to be an astronaut. Think about this because, I really want to be an astronaut, but I don't know. So why was the deeper question. And I knew I loved science and I wanted to explore space, and I just thought it was all that. I wanted to be out there on the frontier and the front edge. And I still do. I still believe that.
Oh my God.
It hasn't left me at all.
And so, okay, so let me ask you this. So, because I want to hear more, but I could sit and ask you questions all day and never get to the book. So, are you covering me up now? Can
No,
you see
I'm
me?
making it better.
You're making it better. Thanks, Colin.
Welcome,
So he
Shelley.
got into the book too a little bit. Too.
Yes.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to reread the book is because I think a lot of little kids, a lot of people in the world go, I want to be an astronaut. But when it comes down to us being in isolation, like just being quarantined for COVID, just being in a small space
Right.
with one or two other people lose their fucking mind.
That's right.
Most people would be such
That's
terrible astronauts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they can't even
Definitely.
be, they can't be,
You can't be cooped up with
They
somebody
can't be
for that
cooped
period
up.
of time. Keep your family all these weeks now. you're finding some little weaknesses, aren't you? They're
Yeah.
breaking through, they're cracking.
Yeah, yeah, and I grew up the picture. So what's great about this book? What she does is she kind of starts off with like what if you grew up, I don't know, in America sometime between 1973 and you were born between 62 and 93,
Even
whatever.
even
the
before
40s,
that.
Even
the
before
40s,
that.
like 42.
Sure.
With the Soviets.
Yes, and
Yes.
and there was the space race, and there, but they always portrayed astronauts as sort of like light heroes,
Or
macho
larger than life.
pilots.
pilots.
They were just pilots.
pilots, right?
Yeah.
But what you learn reading this book is piloting is a minuscule
Part of it.
part of it. It's minuscule. All the science. So she talks about the human being who is an astronaut as the problem.
Yes.
Like you're the
You're
problem.
the problem. You can't get along. You
No.
you can't be cooped up. You can't figure out how to go to the bathroom. You can't
No.
stop playing around.
Your
you can't
organs are moving around in space.
Yeah, nausea.
You like miss walking.
Yes.
You
You
know,
miss walking. Your blood
Yes.
isn't moving
Moving.
around right. You can't have
miss the
sex.
smell of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, you can't pee. Like, how do you pee? How do you smell?
They get like excited when they see the pee go out,
God.
like,
Yes.
like
Yes.
into space.
When you're going through the interview process, you have a clue that stuff is really important to them because of the test they make you do. So they put me in a. So when astronauts come back to Earth, before the space shuttle, they came back and splashed into the Indian Ocean,
Yeah.
and you had to get into a space capsule and bounce around.
Mhm.
So they put you as part of your interview in a ball, a ball that's maybe this big,
Mhm.
this round. Because I'm smaller, and this height size for astronauts is 5 to 6 feet or something.
Okay.
Anyway, you get in, you zip up the inside, they zip up the outside. You're stuck in. You can't move. And they keep you there for like 15, 20 minutes, and you're just in the ball by yourself. Because if you get splashed into the Indian Ocean, you got to know you have claustrophobia.
Yeah.
You feel anything. And so I just was calm. It didn't make me feel one way or the other. I didn't get sick. I didn't feel like I'm going to die. You're never going to pull me out and NASA. You're just leaving me in here.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting part of the job, description and application process. It's interesting.
So did some people just lose it right then?
No, because you know what? For all the people that were there, we were always separate. We
Oh.
saw each other at dinner. We saw each other maybe at breakfast some days, depending on our schedule. We had
Yeah.
a big dinner at the end with all the people. Chris Kraft just died. He was there when I left. So, so it's a lot of fascinating things, and you saw behind the scenes. And I was actually on the first day or the second day, my electricity went out in the room that they put me in, so I couldn't do my hair, so it was in a ponytail. My father saw me on the nightly news with Walter Cronkite. He says, "What is wrong with your hair?" I'm like, "Dad, I'm getting ready to shoot my butt up into space, and you were
Who cares? And it could be that they shut off the power to see how you do.
Yes, they could. You know
See
that?
how you do.
Based upon the book, they would have said, "How do you react?" And I
Yeah.
was there on time with hair in a ponytail. I didn't really care.
Yeah.
It was just like, I want to be here so bad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fun.
So can you identify now, however many years after they asked you, like what is it about what is the image in your mind that has kept you your entire life wanting to be an astronaut?
I think it's me. I just think it's me, and people like me. They have to fly. That's why I got to climb before others we'll talk about. Then it's just this energetic me, the ADHD me.
Yeah.
You see, I'm a doctor, a marijuana doctor, a comedy.
I can relate.
I'm all over the place.
For sure.
I'm not stable.
Sure.
Nancy, don't listen to that part.
Right.
You need a creative, unstable person.
Yeah, but the science.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just, and so that's why I actually DM'd, I told you, DM'd Elon Musk, if he's listening to this show today.
Hi, Elon.
Hi,
Big
Elon.
fan. Big
Congratulations on
fan.
fatherhood.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate
And
it.
I want to go back, and in the book, in her book, she says, because of the radiation and sperm count and all of that, and having kids and that age range of people who are astronauts, 20s, 30s, 40s, that they want older people to go. So I'm in the range now of older people go. You can go up. It could be a one-way trip. You never know. You know, may not come back. I was very upset about Challenger when I blew up. Sick.
Yeah.
So that was it.
I
And right
remember.
after that, I was so insane. Yes, I was. I called NASA and I said, I'm so sorry about Challenger, but you're taking any more astronauts now? And
Right.
I applied that year again.
You did.
Yes, right after Challenger.
Oh my God. So tell me, okay, so let's get into this a little bit. Let's get into the book a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
And then I'll introduce Colin since he's on the screen, and me since we're finally doing Facebook Live. So I'm all over the place too. I do the show. I work on a farm. I trim. I used to be the membership director for the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association. I run a comedy show at Home Medicine. Happy 10th anniversary.
Yay.
This is the
Happy.
yeah. This is their 10th year. So there'll be a live streamed comedy show on Friday at
Oh,
home.
okay.
Yep. And oh my God, I didn't even mention that we also met each other through stand up.
Yeah.
She's not just an astronaut applicant slash medical doctor slash cannabis applicant slash researcher. She's also a comedian. Folks.
On the side.
Oh my God.
Way on the side.
I feel like we did some too long open mic at some point. Like did you ever come to it was in Ipsy, the one that used to be
Yes.
right there, that one.
Alan?
Yes,
Yes.
Alan Black.
Yes.
Hey Alan.
Hey, Alan.
You're out
What's
there.
up?
So it was one of those where like you know how sometimes there's more comedians than audience
Right.
and you're just sort of getting through it.
Yeah.
You're just suffering through it. I
Suffering.
feel like we met.
Right. Okay, you next or no? I'm next. I'm next. No, you're next.
Okay. Let's just do it. Let's just keep it going. That one guy in the back sort of likes some people. We'll just do it for him.
You have an audience of one. Huh?
Yeah. So, and then Colin, I want you to plug, isn't there a Michigan Psychedelic Society conference or something coming up?
Oh yeah, there's a Detroit Psychedelic Conference that's happening August 6th through 9th,
Sweet.
I think, in Detroit and Southfield. It's not I don't think it's the Michigan Psychedelic Society, it's its own thing. But
Okay.
but we're like involved and we have a table and so does Decriminalized Nature Ann Arbor. So check it out.
Right on.
And yeah,
Okay.
that's my plug.
Okay. So let's get into some of the things, and I wrote down some of the things that I thought were amazing about this book that I could really relate to. So, the one that I was talking about with, as far as how we just learned how many people in America would be terrible at being astronauts because they couldn't get over like not going to Kroger and like, not being able to get meatballs delivered to their door or whatever. So that one of the things they're measuring. So what Mary Roach does is she spends quite a lot of time with NASA and pouring through all the research and looking at the video and following people around and seeing all the tests that they do, and it's amazing because none of it is like quote the right stuff.
Right.
It's not like let's see, except for the parabola diving, those experiments, which were, which was amazing. But one of the tests is capacity to tolerate boredom and low levels of stimulation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So during
That's what's important.
So she did that, and she talked about the psychologists and psychiatrists. At NASA, you have a 6-hour psychology. I finished. I thought it was crazy. I really did because it was stuff that I've seen psychiatric evaluations, but this went really deeper and deeper and deeper for 3 hours at a segment. One was a psychiatrist, one psychologist, and I was just like, I felt uncomfortable just trying to answer those questions, and I've never seen those questions in medical school.
What kind of questions?
Do
you remember?
Let me just give you sort of a situation. You're at a castle. There's a king. There's a queen. There's a bunch of horsemen around, and then this situation just got worse and worse and worse from that base of castle and a king and a queen of power and authority. And
Really?
it's just, and you say, well, I guess I don't know. You don't know. And I know they know, and they know the way you're answering. There's a way you should or could be answering that shows, do I get along with people well? Maybe I don't. And there's this very, very deep psychology of what you get asked.
Oh my God.
So, and I don't know if there's a pass or fail. There's like, oh, you're in this spectrum, we'll put you in this shuttle, or we'll do this. It's just maybe that. I don't really know. But I was willing to go do it again. I said, I did.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And like maybe they just want to know if you would be entertaining in space.
Yes.
Like, do you have enough creativity to be by yourself, like a kid that's able to play
Right.
alone and entertain
Right.
themselves? They're like I would get off on the castle analogy and probably just forget that I was flying to be an astronaut. I'd just be like, well, could they have anything in the castle that they wanted? Do they have a nice castle builder? Like, what, is it fun? Do they have musicians in the castle? Like, oh my God.
And I may have said those things. Maybe they said, okay, she's all right. And then the one question they asked you talking about, do you work well with other people? I remember this question very distinctly. Do you work better in an environment that's more serious or more humorous? I said, in my mind, like, humorous for sure, but this is messy. So I said serious. Oh, that was the wrong answer to this day. This is the wrong answer. I know in my spirit.
You know it was. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
with somebody that's so rigid.
Yeah, and plus it's not a good learning environment. Laughing is a better learning environment.
That's
like
right.
anybody will say, stressed out is not a good learning environment. And what's funny is when she goes back and quotes things from, old manuals or research or whatever, they're pretty silly. The astronauts are pretty silly.
Yeah.
Like, so one of the things that I was fascinated by that they mention in a few different ways is breakaway syndrome, or I think it's called breakaway syndrome, where it's a common thing for an astronaut that's out on a spacewalk or something like that to never want to come back. And it's a similar thing to divers who go down to a certain level and they never want to come back up. And the psychological response of a person is like, this is too beautiful.
Yes.
I'm floating and I understand everything about God and the universe.
Right,
and I'm no longer attached to the earth and everything that Father's down there, and I'm understanding awareness of all this. But what they're worried about is your oxygen levels.
Yes.
Your oxygen levels. And are you just feeling that way because you're dying? Because that was happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I thought like it is so common, and one of the conversations, if you can find page 68, 69.
This is
is it can you see it on there? Yeah.
Is it eating your pants? No.
No. I have White McDivitt conversation, page 68, 69.
But
and I think it has something to do with one of them telling the other one to come back in.
Yes.
And he's saying no. And you picture like what an astronaut is supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to be this disciplined scientist, but basically they're like, no, I want to go to space because it's going to be cool. And then they're finally there.
Right.
And they want to go out in space and somebody's going, okay, time to come back in now.
No more playing by yourself. So is it page 68?
I think so. White McDivitt conversation, is there like a little, maybe it's before.
Because it looks different in a Kindle. Sure.
Oh, okay. It was a conversation between White and McDivitt.
Is it under Star Crazy?
Yes. I think it's a chapter about
Can space blow your mind?
Can space blow your mind? Yeah.
I remember that part.
It's a conversation. Yeah. Some parts I read through and then I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So is it White and McDivitt?
Yes. Read that conversation.
Okay. That was the most natural feeling, Jim. That was White. And then McDivitt. You look like you were in your mother's womb. NASA's concern was not that your astronaut was euphoric, but that euphoria might have overtaken good sense. During White's 20 minutes of bliss, Mission Control repeatedly tries to break in. Finally, the capsule communicator, Gus Grissom, gets through to McDivitt. Here's Grissom. Gemini 4, get back in. McDivitt, they want you to come back in now. White, back in? McDivitt, back in. Grissom, Roger, we've been trying to talk to you for a while here. White, oh, Kate, let me just take a few pictures. McDivitt, no, back in, come on. White, listen, you could almost not drag me in, but I'm coming. But he wasn't. 2 more minutes pass, McDivitt starts to plead. McDivitt, just come on in. White, actually, I'm trying to get a better picture. McDivitt, no, come in. white. Trying to get a picture of the spacecraft now. McDivitt, Ed, come on in here. And a few minutes go by, and then that's it.
And then I think he says, as he's going back in, I think he says, "This is the
This
saddest
moment of my life.
moment of my life."
Right, right.
Yeah, and so here's something I've never really thought about with astronauts. Is one of them says, I can't remember which quote this is. Says, "I've been an astronaut for 8 years,
Mhm.
and I've spent 6 days in
Space,
space."
right, right.
And being an astronaut isn't just like, okay, I'm in.
I'm in, I'm gonna fly.
Let's get
No,
on a rocket now.
preparation is hard work.
Yeah.
So when I applied to be a mission specialist. So you can see from these crusty things, it's a mission specialist and a pilot astronaut candidate, and that's what I said. I'm no pilot, so they're taking doctors and PhDs and researchers, and that's how I got in. So
Oh my God.
that's old.
This up in front of the camera. Oh my gosh.
That's from back in the, and then the FBI and CIA investigations to make sure that
Really?
all that they went to my parents' house, they went to neighbors, everywhere I ever lived, they went. So you're just not going to be an astronaut.
Sure. I know. But isn't it just so there's like this brutal kind of background analysis of you,
Mhm.
psychologically, like legally, all this kind of stuff. But really, there's the other whole part about just how humans need gravity.
Right.
And
That was-
putting someone in space just messes that whole
The
thing
whole
up.
thing up. It just messes up your balance, your equilibrium, your thoughts. You're floating around. You know, when you get to walk, and then you want to walk. You think you want to walk on the ground, but you're just floating around, slowly. Nothing, no resistance.
So how many times have you gotten to try anti-gravity? Every time you applied?
Never.
Never.
No, that wasn't part of it. That was never part of it.
Oh,
So, and they did take me up in the F-42. They did take me up with jets. I wanted to go jet. I wanted to do all of that. I wanted to
Yeah.
get to the water submersion system, simulate. So, if you got water with you.
Yeah.
And, but one of the hardest parts, the physical parts, was the treadmill test. It's for your physical endurance. And you're wired up. You pull your head, your chest, everything. You're wired up. They pull you up onto this platform, which is a treadmill, and then they start it. They start it, and it starts going faster. It's like 20 people around watching. You can see your heart rate over here, heart rate. You can see everything happening to you physiologically. Then after that, it goes faster and then incline, faster and incline, faster and incline. And when you're ready to get down, because you can feel the chest pressure and tightness, and then you're gonna pass out, and I'm gonna die. Then you put your thumb up. After one thumb up, you got 1 minute to stay up there. You should figure out when one thumb up should have happened, because you were not supposed to pass out there. And then
yeah.
they slowly lower it down, and people come and grab you and take you. It's fun.
Wow. It seems like I can't imagine that maybe the weightlessness is part of a test later,
Mhm,
obviously.
mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Because so one of the things that I could not figure out how to picture is so how do you test what is gonna happen to your body with no gravity? And the early fears that like I guess I didn't grow up thinking about.
Mhm.
I didn't grow up thinking about like, will your blood flow the right way? Will you
Right.
be able to swallow food? Will you be able to eliminate? Will
Yeah.
will your eyes open and close?
Right.
Like what all does gravity affect?
Yeah.
And reading about things like
Bone loss.
bone loss.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your heart, like heart,
Yes.
oxygenation level.
Mhm.
Or like when they went on a spacewalk and didn't one of them like lose like 12 pounds like in that spacewalk from like something.
I remember.
I remember
this.
something like
Yeah.
I think he was repairing something, but or maybe it was he went to Antarctica or something was doing something there because they would talk about Antarctica too.
Well, even thinking about gravity as a concept,
Mhm.
it's not weightlessness.
Yes.
It's anti-gravity.
Yes.
And that means that right now our weight is the amount of force of me going into the earth.
Yeah.
So if you think about how much taller you get when you're not compacted down, you're sort of stretched out. probably that's got a lot to do with the height requirement. You're 6 and you're going to get up to 6'3" because all of your joints and
Yeah.
everything are spacing out. What is that?
But I think they
Yeah.
figured all of that out from Mercury and Apollo Skylab and then the space through the space station, as well as from Russia. Russia did a lot of work way
Russia was very interesting in the book too.
Yes.
Just the astronauts
yeah,
and
and what you have to do to be an astronaut, how you have to
Yeah.
think and the women, what they think about women versus men being astronauts.
I know, that's kind of funny.
how much vodka they take up into space.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We're just gonna drink ourselves crazy.
I know, I'm like, how do you drink vodka in space? Even that, even like, how do you take a shot? How do you do that? It's amazing. And there's that funny story. So we're kind of bouncing around all over the place, but I'm thinking about the story of, is it Peggy Whitson? Is she the
Yeah,
woman?
Whitson,
Whitson?
WHIT. Yes,
And doesn't some Russian astronaut just grab her,
Kiss
on
her,
camera
yeah.
and kiss her?
yes.
And they're all kind of like, well, I mean, people are in an uproar, but they're all, the actual astronauts are kind of like, well, Russian men are like that.
Yeah.
We have been cooped up a while, so
yes.
whatever. Like,
There's no big deal.
it was no big deal. A Russian guy kissed me, kind of par for the course. We've been in space together a while.
Like everybody thought she blew it out of proportion or something
right,
like that.
yeah, she's like, no.
Didn't there was like one Japanese guy quit or something too, on that mission or something.
Quit on the mission. Oh, yeah. Oh, here's what is fun.
Yeah.
They make astronauts, and I say they, when I say they make, what I'm talking about is the images of astronauts that I've been accustomed to growing up. Yes. They make them look like serious, stoic pilots or scientists or whatever, but they're fighting. One of the guys said, did they not think we had emotions?
Right.
Did they not think we were going to get pissed off at each other?
Right.
And
Same emotions.
want to have sex and crave a meatball sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you're still a human.
We're humans, so we're human. But it is an image, and that's what the astronauts had to live up to that image. So when I got there, I was thinking, do I have the white stuff? Or no, I'm not a white male. So, so do I have it? And one of the docs there, his name is Dr. Atkins, has passed. He wrote a book called The Real Stuff, and that included minorities and women. And it was more about who you are as a social being and how you're going to get along and what does it take to come into this environment and work in isolation with people on a project. It's all teamwork. That's nothing but teamwork, nothing else. And it's stressed out. Somebody's cracked the team. There's a crack. Something's not working. And you don't know what's going to affect you. Do you? For instance, this whole thing with COVID stressed beyond our normal. What cracked you up? I know. I'm eating ice cream. I don't get it. I just don't understand why I'm eating ice cream. And it's soothing to me. But
that's what made you realize you'd cracked.
I cracked.
You just started eating ice cream.
Eating ice cream. I haven't eaten ice cream in 10 years.
You just started eating
But my kids would go to the Dairy Queen. They want some ice cream. No, I'll just take a lick and maybe nothing. All of a sudden, I'm buying Ben and Jerry's. I'm just buying. I'm cracked. I know I'm cracked.
Oh.
So I don't know why. I don't know if I'm craving. I don't know. I'm not sick or anything.
All right.
But something. And just you listen to people and say, you know what? I'm not going to respond to them. Just
yes.
not. I'm just not.
Yes.
That response. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Well, so my cracking, I think, and I think it might have to be an astronaut either, is sort of like the spacewalk guy. Like I'm in the middle of the universe and realizing there's so much more and how magical is this, and I kind of don't want to care about all the experiments now and the timeline of NASA and the years of people who've been building this ship and planning this so that I don't die. I just kind of want to be like,
I know.
Whoa, look at this. And just I think it would be kind of rising above all the petty shit. I think my cracking point is like, are we really all fighting about this petty shit?
Yeah.
Like, why? Yeah, I think that would be, that's my cracking. Is if we start talking about But if we're doing like pretty good in isolation, I can entertain myself for a long period of time. That's good. I don't mind hygiene. Did you know what I mean?
I know what they
there's
said. Right.
like I can go for a while
Yeah.
with. I showered for you guys today because I had been on the farm.
Thank you,
and
Shelley.
I legitimately like had dirt all over me.
Yeah.
But I don't need to feel super clean.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not that important to me.
And what they talked about.
Especially
in the
these
book.
days. It's like, I
Who
don't
cares?
know. Like, when was the last time?
Right. Yeah. If I've
Right.
got physical dirt,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah, you gotta get
do
that
it. But
off.
if I just kind of feel
You
dirty,
gotta-
I've been like, you've been to my house. I have
Yeah.
a pool, and I've just been
Sure.
going in the pool,
That's-
and
that's
I
fine.
forget like
Bathtub.
how
Sure.
long it's been.
Sure.
Sometimes.
I bathed in your pool that night.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah, I
It's a
bathed
community pool.
there. Yeah.
Bath.
Yes. Yes. So talk a little bit about things that you went through and what you read about in the book.
I remember the interview process so well that as I was reading the book, I never said, wow, but you have to defecate and to urinate is different for men and women. Things float around. What you eat's going to be different. I remember when I said, for sure, I'm going to be an astronaut. They even said, what's your likelihood? I said, should have said 100%. I said 99.9%. No, you can't have any doubt, no doubt. And they said, what music would you want to take? And I thought about film. What music would I want in outer space? And I think it was, actually, I don't remember, but it was jazz. It was something jazz.
Oh.
Something's going to make you soothing.
Yeah.
Kenny G, maybe, something like that. That's what I wanted to take. I didn't want to take Eric Clapton or G's. I didn't want to take any of that kind of, none of that stuff. I didn't want to take the Beatles. I didn't want to take maybe a little Motown.
Sure.
A little Motown, that's what I wanted. But everything they're going through and how they're going to this point now when they're getting ready to go to Mars. So the astronauts just went to the space station on May 30th, and that's when you saw that article that when I posted that whole.
Yes.
I was glued to the television that morning. They made it SpaceX.
So can you tell me just and whoever's listening, the people who just got to the space station, how long have they been out there, and how many of them are there? What I have a hard time picturing.
I have a hard time keeping up with the two. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
Oh,
know
okay,
if it's a dozen. I don't know if it's more than that.
Okay.
I don't know what countries they're from because I don't keep up with that.
All right.
But I try to keep up with these launches
Okay.
and Elon Musk. So that's why I can
Yeah.
get back up there. But so tomorrow is they're launching another launch. Because I've been to a lot of launches at NASA at Cape Canaveral. And they're launching the Mars rover, the second one, a bigger one, and they're going to have like a drone comes out of it and flies above. So it's going to be two pieces that go to Mars, and they're going to be able to look at the whole planet. They'll be able to look at it. It's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah.
And then so they say that maybe people will go from Earth back to the moon, then from the moon to Mars by the 30s, the 2030s.
Wow.
So that's the trajectory, and they're putting things together. So a lot of it's repair. And when those astronauts went there this last time, they were replacing batteries that hadn't been replaced for 3 years. So like, what about my phone? I need a battery like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of repair work, and they're coming back home, I think, in August or something like that. But I don't know how many are up there now, but I know they've selected 4 new astronauts, a female, a male from the USA, and I think somebody from Japan and somebody from Russia, maybe. They just kind of go through it. Then you forget because there's so much. There's so many astronauts.
Oh my God, there's so many.
So yeah, so they just had another recruitment for astronauts, and it was like a month ago. 18,000 people applied, selected. I think maybe 1,200 to look at. But there's 48 active astronauts now. 48. Some.
Wow. Like with the title of astronaut or floating around somewhere?
Title astronaut working
Title
at NASA, mostly NASA, US base. I don't know about
Yeah.
Japan, Europe, here, so this station. So it's gonna be exciting for kids, especially who have science or STEM backgrounds that are excellent. I think NASA was giving scholarships for kids in the math area, and out of Georgia Tech, somewhere in South Florida. This is incredible. I remember I went to Congress to talk to John Conyers about space exploration right after.
When did you do this? How did you get to do
In
this?
the 80s, I went to talk to him, and his aide was there. I got to his office, talked to his aide. John Conyers wasn't there, it was his aide. He said, he doesn't care about that. He care about welfare and getting work. I'm like, welfare? No, I'm talking about space and technology
Oh
and
my
creating
God.
cell phones and other stuff. That's somebody else's job. I said, you need to fund space. You need to fund it so we can
Yeah.
get things done that are different. Because that's what I believe. I believe that he's exploring stuff. I'm exploring.
And it almost feels like this is going to sound really wacky, but you know, if you grew up watching Battlestar Galactica or Star Trek or anything like that, every once in a while you see a piece of technology and you're like, oh, well, that's just an iPad, really. Like they're using something and it just looks like an iPad. It used to, when I was little, look like a super high tech piece of equipment, but now it just looks like an iPad, you know?
Yeah.
So the idea, what is interesting to me is the thing I used to watch a long time ago, which used to be like our view of the future,
Mm-hmm.
and where we're starting to get to now is getting closer
Yeah.
together.
Oh, what you thought of.
Yes, yes. It's like star date 2023.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, well, that is actually, there's not a whole huge ship floating around with a whole city on it, but there is 48 astronauts.
What if, like, in like a couple years, there's like a hologram of like Shelly that
Oh,
pops
yeah.
up on my phone, and
Right.
a hologram of me that pops up on her phone.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, we're almost there. We got like the FaceTime and
Sure.
everything.
And if you watch The Simpsons, you know they predict the future way out to the future.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm part of the World Future Society. I've been part of the World Future Society since
The
the
World Future
World Future
Society.
It is everything I see. It was predicted, and I see it. And I still go to the meetings. And then you can tell what's happening with food, with everything. Everything you can see. Like for instance,
What do you do in the World Future Society? What does that mean?
that means
Do you know Mike Whitty?
Who?
Michael Whitty. Okay, he's a professor. He says he's a futurist,
Yeah,
so I
he's
figured
part of
you
the
might know him.
futurists.
He's in the cannabis world too.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Seems like you need to be friends with.
I know.
Yeah,
You just read stuff, you go to meetings, you think out loud, talk to other futurists, and then everybody's like crazy at home, but here you're really under each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I bet.
It's fun. So they have a journal, you can read the journal, and you can see, you can read into the future, like 10, 15 years. If you drive down the street, and you look at all the cameras that are there.
Yeah.
So in the 80s, I said, oh, there's not so many cameras everywhere. Cameras. And I saw it coming, in little pieces, but now it's here. But I saw it in the 80s, so it's not. I mean, it just took time for people to get together.
Right.
But they think into the future that far, so that you know what's coming up. You can be prepared. Be prepared or not. I don't know if you can be prepared. Just go live your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It's the reason why when the world starts going crazy, I want to be a farmer.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no,
Gardening.
I just want to tend to the earth and like make enough money to exchange for my daily bread. I'm like regressing
Some ice cream.
and eat ice cream
and
Yeah.
pet puppies and
and have
kitties.
puppies and kitties. Okay,
Okay.
so I think this is funny. So because urination and excretion is tough in space, they fit astronauts, male astronauts with condoms
Mhm,
to
mhm.
release things, and they had to rename them large, extra large, and extra extra large.
Right, because
Because-
small didn't grow very.
Well, because no astronaut wants to be like, I'll need a small. I like a small one. So because that was causing problems, no one admitted to needing a small. They would get one that was too big, and it would come off.
That's
So
right.
they just renamed
Renamed
them.
them.
They didn't resize them. They
That's right,
renamed them.
renamed
So you start with a large,
That's
which is hilarious.
There's a lot of things that they did to accommodate astronauts, their perception, how they were feeling. They would just name
Of
things,
course.
rename things. Like, well, anyway, I guess we do it too.
Oh
In
yeah.
everyday life.
Oh yeah. Well, and you don't want to think about. So when I think about futuristic movies that are interesting, like
The Matrix.
The Matrix,
Yes.
The Matrix,
Yes.
and those guys are and they're sort of like greasy mechanic types.
Yeah.
You know, they're cigarette smoking, tattooing, like, I work on this ship.
Right.
You know, they may as well be a long haul trucker.
That's right,
like,
right.
Whatever.
Right.
They just happen to be in space. We've gone past the fascinating part to where it's just an average Joe type of job now, which is fascinating to think about because right now that is still. What does a long haul trucker do when he has to pee?
Right.
Where does he sleep?
Right.
Like that, it's similar. It's like, you're gonna
eating confined space. Truckers sleep in their trucks.
Yeah, and you got to go really long distance by yourself. You know, how does that affect your sexual urges? How does that affect, like, even being sedentary? So this is fascinating.
There was one point where they said like the only good astronaut. One astronaut said like the only good astronauts out there would be like eunuchs because they were like because
no desire at all.
Because everyone's just like on top of each other, like breathing down each other's necks. There's so much tension.
Yeah, and it's funny because they never really tell you a conclusion.
Yes, I know.
They do all this experimentation of like, how is sex affected by weightlessness? And I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And also, how is blood flow affected by weightlessness, which affects sex and pressure, and then so most people remember or can bring up a picture in their mind of animals in space: dogs, 2 Russian dogs, monkeys,
chimps,
and the most famous one being Ham.
Yes,
Ham, the monkey that everybody really thought was so great, but the perception even of that is like, so we're really, 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 really putting humans through the ringer to do a job that a chimp just did.
Right, or a dog.
Or a dog.
And then they had cadavers.
And then they use cadavers. That's kind of a ridiculous part because we're like going like, well, until we figure out the most highly intelligent possible human to fit, let's just send this chimp.
That's right.
Who also does fine.
That's right.
Right? And so they talk about Ham, who was the 3-year-old astro chimp.
Yeah.
And the one that they never talk about was Enos the penis.
Yes, right.
So there was a monkey or a chimp that went into space and his name was Enos. And there was Mary Roach, the author, is trying to get to the bottom of why they called him Enos the penis. And some people said, well, he was just kind of a dick. He was an asshole. And others were saying, well, because he was always masturbating or he was always pulling his pants off and fondling himself. But there wasn't like significant proof. Right?
That he did all that. No.
Right. It was mostly scandal. Mostly scandal.
She got that from archives and stuff though.
Yeah.
Yes. So some of it you didn't, the way it was labeled probably, she had to read and reread and couldn't get anybody to confirm it because who wants to talk about that now? I don't want my name part of your book or
and a lot of people were not like at first like happy that she was like coming to talk to them about being an astronaut. And but usually they just like go right in afterwards. They're like, you're gonna make a bunch of money off me? Well, this is how it kind of went down.
Yeah. And I would imagine you'd want the truth to be out there.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to be some glorified, because really it's a solitary job.
Yes.
Lonely, stressful. You can't lay down or stand up. There's a lot of puking.
Yes, it's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of puking. And then there's also someone kind of being in control of your every moment.
Yes.
Like there's a statement in there, kind of a very matter-of-fact conversation where they're talking about sex again. And like, well, maybe we should just expect everybody to masturbate. And the guy from Mission Control is kind of like, well, we'd have to schedule it in.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's right. That's right. Or we'll put couples in space together that can have sex, but again, they have to do it from this time to this time. Which is
and she goes really deep into sex and the possibility of having children
Yeah.
and married couples that astronauts they don't want them to be married in case one doesn't come back.
Right. Right.
The unthinkable happens.
Well, they don't want two astronauts to
on
go
the same
married.
on the same mission.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And
They thought like maybe it might be good to have like couples like that are like
not related.
not
Like
related,
boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
not boyfriend and girlfriend, but like you could just have them be couples on the
Yeah.
Like
or
friends with benefits.
yeah,
Tinder.
kind of
Tinder.
Yeah.
kind of a Tinder
Tinder is
space.
Astronaut candidate seeking another astronaut candidate
That's
for
my
space
That's
quarantine.
right.
That's your profile.
Exactly.
That is your profile.
She did talk about, I think, when you talk about people going off the rail, it was Lisa, the female astronaut that drove from Houston, from wherever to Houston,
Yeah.
about the boyfriend, and she was jealous, and she stopped. She said those diapers were there from 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
But no, they're your diapers for you because you wear them in space. And they kicked her out of the program.
I know. That was a crazy fucking story.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was serious.
Yes, I followed that whole story.
How could you not?
Like, what are you doing? You're going. Was she gonna kill her, or she just had weapons and knives?
She was confronting
The
the other woman.
female.
The other woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess you can be a highly scientific, qualified astronaut
Yes.
and still be like, hell has no free like
That's right.
same thing, same person.
I know.
Yeah. So I picture in the future, maybe this run this by your futurist organization, like in the future, the astronaut exam, once they get a lot of just keeping alive stuff right, the astronaut exam will be more like becoming a bus driver or something. It's like you.
Department of Transportation, eyes, ears, nose, though.
Yeah.
Your blood pressure
You're gonna
is
get
fine.
like you're gonna have to take a class like for it or something like.
Yeah.
So you want to drive in space now?
Yeah.
Tell me why you want to be an astronaut. That's number one. Then through the physical exam, the psychological, I think, will still be there because it is the nature of the job.
Yeah.
You're quarantined. That's part of the astronaut. Get your job done.
And maybe they should do that same one for those people that work in like parking booths.
Oh gosh.
And they just sit in a little plexiglass
Yeah,
booth
all
on a
day
snowy
long.
night at a turnpike for like 12 hours. Those guys
Oh
are
my
probably
gosh.
excellent astronauts.
Oh, I know because I drive to Cleveland a lot, and so I go to the toll road and hi, how are you? It's 5:25. Says thank you very much. Next, okay, so can you no question? You don't have time for a question.
Yeah.
What exit? Oh no, we got a rhythm going here.
Yeah,
So,
everything's all fucked up.
Everybody, like
Backed up.
all of them, are like yelling at you, like what?
why are you talking to her? Because some of them are really nice. They really want to talk. Like,
Oh, sure.
thank you for talking. Thank you so much.
Yeah. My friend John worked for Republic Parking in school here. Do you know the name John F. O'Donnell?
No.
Shout out John F. O'Donnell. He used to be on Redacted Tonight. Look him up, lifeouterspace.com. But John, when he lived in Ann Arbor, he worked at Republic Parking, and he would call me because he was so bored. Like, anyway, I've been writing this new material, and hold on a second, car. And then he would do something. And then he would go back to talking on the phone, and then every few minutes he'd be like, "Hold on, car," and I'd hear him do his little exchange. But he was just bored and cold, and always trying to figure out when do you pee?
Yes.
Like all that.
Where do you go?
Where do you go?
Yeah, I know. Where do you go when you
That's
in those
the
little
thing.
boxes?
Exactly. Okay.
You probably didn't have OMA medicine like you if you were just like run over.
Right. That's true. I can't remember where. I guess they put you wherever they need you.
Yeah.
Any Republic parking garage.
Yeah.
They put you where they need you. Yes, and you're just sitting
But
there.
there's some of them like behind like Grizzly Peak where there's just like a little like booth there, like a toll booth kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
You almost do nothing.
Oh,
You're
gosh.
kind of like, that's the thing.
You're like in the sun too.
I would think that
In the cold.
the so one of the pictures that she paints is this book is great because she has a really funny way of, it's comical how serious these really weird experiments are,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Like, she describes some researchers working with a cadaver that's like acting as a crash test dummy. They're trying to get like lateral, and she's like, picture like foosball guys. They're all like hooked onto a thing and they're spinning, talking about how to simulate 5G, like G-force, and they spin them in the chair, see how long it takes people to puke, and then she said if you didn't know it was a cadaver, it's kind of a familial looking scene. Like it sort of looks like kids and their parents putting up a Christmas lights or something, but really they're attaching wires to a cadaver.
Right, to a cadaver. So weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of the things she talks about in the book that I've never thought about is all the different ways that an astronaut has to be test crashing. The force of your body during takeoff,
right?
And what angle is that? The force of your body if you're land in the water. Splash down. What kind is that? And does it? Oh, and so the experiment they do. Do you remember when they compare how they restrain an astronaut to how a NASCAR driver? And she says, you see this NASCAR driver flip over and they land and they spin and then he gets up, he runs out.
That's always amazing.
Yeah. And what makes it so different? Is it because you have to lay down instead of sit down?
It's the way they're strapped in, number one, the NASCAR drivers, but it's on they're coming in for a landing, a splash. You're gonna come in and you're gonna hit and hit, so you're gonna bounce. So it's like something inside of something moving around. So, but if you strap it in tightly, maybe the head should have moved, or maybe the body should have moved to the right to left. So you have to make sure you splash down, and the splash down doesn't kill you because of friction, force,
waves,
thrust, everything.
Yeah.
They said you're gonna land in the Indian Ocean. I'm like, okay, whatever.
See, that seems so terrifying to me. Like being in space feels like so big and open, but being in a capsule in the water sounds horrifying.
It does, but I think my brain just goes past the horror to like, I want to do this and I want to have fun. I want to teach. I want to learn. I want to explore. What's my life all about?
Yeah.
So, and when you put it in that perspective, because I have kids, like, oh, you're going to space, or you coming back? When you coming back? Bring us some popcorn. Like, no, it's not about that. This is like for real. This is the real stuff. The technical, even though experiments, whatever, a frog, plant, or cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Can we grow weed?
Can you grow weed?
Can we grow weed?
Right.
And there's a lot of indoor grows that we know of.
Yes.
And you can control a lot of the environment, but gravity would matter.
But if you get in the right sunlight, would it?
Well,
they've water plants there before, so they've grown stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably not
right.
So you just have a cannabis plant itself, it's still plant.
Yeah.
So it may. Yeah, what would be the purpose? What are you going to do with cannabis in space?
Smoke it.
Yeah,
smoke it.
Yeah. But do they want the? But they don't want the astronauts.
The regular stuff. But maybe they do. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like maybe
it'll help them.
You're the first astronaut who does really
To see how CBD works on people in space.
Dealing
with anxiety.
Yeah. Oh,
because anxiety's top. You're away from your family. You're away from everybody. Your favorite food. It's almost like being in prison.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
A good prison.
Yeah, if they could find really, really high-end prisoners, they could handle it. That are very well behaved. Put them in there. Okay. So I feel like we should do several things. I want to ask you because you brought up CBD, is you're so involved in cannabis. I want to know, like, what led you to that? Like, was that always part of your life, like wanting to be an astronaut, or how did you go? What was the timeline of wanting to be an astronaut, discovering cannabis, being a medical doctor, and why now do you only consume CBD
Slash some tears.
slash some THC? Okay, so yeah, tell me that
All right,
timeline.
so I started out medical school, medical doctor, tried to be an astronaut. Came back to Detroit, practiced medicine, and then decided towards the like after 19 years into medicine, maybe 15, that I didn't like it. I didn't like death and dying and gunshot. It was just stressful. And the reason why I went to medical school to be a doctor is to heal, to help people, and I didn't find any of that happening. They taught us about pharmacology, physiology, and pathology, and then you're off writing prescriptions. And then people would say, like, okay, I want to get to be 100. I want to be vibrant. I want to be out there. And so the whole astronaut thing stayed with me because I kept applying, even though I was an ER doctor. And then maybe 12 years ago, somebody asked me, would you like to be a cannabis doctor in Michigan? And that at that time, people were doctors were in jail. They were getting fried. I would do this. I think it's fascinating. Just like space and ocean and all that. Fine. I said, well, let me just see. And then I went towards this interview in a parking lot.
Oh, great. And you're like, this is legit.
This is like, I said, how did this go down?
This is just like becoming an astronaut. I go to a parking lot. Somebody, yeah.
So I'm a drug dealer. Okay.
Okay.
So it went down pretty well, but I was going to be set up in Highland Park. I'm like, no way.
Oh my
No,
God.
you don't put me in Highland Park. There's some more drugs involved. Come on. So I kept studying it with the conferences that I went to, CBD, for 3 or 4 years. And the same person came back and asked me, do you want to or don't you? And I knew about John Sally and stuff like California because he left here. He was played for the Pistons, he opened his farm, and all these big guys were doing so. He said, you know what? And people kept asking me about it. Just the fact that they asked me made me explore it. And then I got involved and I worked at a dispensary actually for 3 years. It was rated, it was busted rated. It was called a medical clinic slash not dispensary, so I was able
Yes,
to be there.
yes.
So the way it was set up. But and then I had like thousands of patients now. And so I kept learning, and then the whole science part, and then Raphael Michelum over in Israel, the work he's been doing. I was like, this could help people's cancer and healing and nausea and anxiety. And so the more you look into it, the thousands of years it's been around. Why is it so bad? Because somebody else said it was bad back in Prohibition time in the 20s and 30s and reefer madness. And so I just had to let go of everything that is bad, and I still get people around it. Oh, you're around it. Yeah. So it's just like what?
And they've known you from the medical community and
People
everything?
medical people in the community don't say anything because doctors and hospitals, they are not really allowed to talk about it to patients with any sort of consistency or what do you use, THC, THCA. They're not allowed. They can't. If you're using marijuana, it's a drug, it's substance use, your cannabis use disorder. That's what it is. And so even the pain management doctors, they can prescribe pain pills, but they have to do drug screens or for you to keep going if you have cannabis in your system. So for me, is the healing part, is the properties. And so right now, I'm looking more at cannabis for PTSD or cancer. It's kind of tumors, cancers. So I'm just looking at it. I'm not saying there's a cure for it. I know about Rick Simpson oil, and I just kept reading. The course I took about 2 weeks ago was with Dr. Dustin Sulak, the healer, healer.com. And that's when they talked about psilocybin and the endocannabinoid system. Yes. And the more I learn, the more I want to know.
Yeah.
So I figured, like, when I'm in my 90s, just give me some mushrooms.
Yeah. Put me on a rocket ship. Give me like 8 grand.
That's right.
Maybe shoot me out into a spacewalk. Yeah, for sure.
Looking at CBD for Alzheimer's as well. So there's a lot of potential because it hasn't been studied. And it's a time in my life when it's, and I'm working with a lot of scientists. And
Yeah. Oh, super cool. Okay, here's something that we were talking about me working on the farm. And what I like about working on the farm is probably what I like about working anywhere. So I feel like part of the astronaut test should be like, can you hang?
Yeah, and
There should be like a hang test.
I feel like one thing that I wanted to mention is I remember in it when the psychology part of the book, um, they talked about selecting astronauts who are also humorous and like hang, you know?
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Shelby? If you got another chance, would you answer things different so they would know that you could hang?
Well, I've got so much experience now as a person.
Yeah.
So many things that happened that I think I'm the best candidate for the job. So I would answer things differently and honestly,
Right.
and I don't think I would base it on. Before I was like, I have to be an astronaut, just have to answer. She's right, and now I'm like, no, NASA or space people, or wherever you are.
I think technically they're called space people.
Yeah.
Space people.
You know,
Space bosses.
space boss, space boss up. You know, so I would just be like, okay, this is me. Honestly, I've been here all my life, and I want to go and help you and figure out some stuff, and I'm willing to be, that test person,
Yeah.
test dummy, whatever. I know it's crash dummies, chimpanzees, and
Sure.
monkeys, right? But get called out. But just to be there and just to do it again and have fun and give it my all, because my health is held up.
Yeah.
That's one thing. 'Cause I know a couple of astronauts have not only died in space, but like an astronaut just recently died 2 years ago, 3 years ago. She was like in her late 50s or 60s. I'm like, it's early.
Yeah.
It's too early.
But had she been out in space and back a few times?
She had walked in space. She had flown, and
Yeah. That's
but
a lot of wear and tear, man.
it is a lot of wear and tear.
That's like you've lost bone. You've had, you know what I mean. You've been through it if you've done a spacewalk.
And the stress.
You know?
But then it was John Glenn that just died maybe like, what, 5 or 6 years ago, and he had cardiovascular disease, same disease my father had. So I tried to get my father into Cleveland Clinic for microvalvular surgery, and I couldn't get it. Just a good choice.
Yeah.
Uh, but he was 93.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I think, okay, NASA or space bosses, whoever's listening, we would really like you to reconsider Cynthia Shelby Lane, MD. Like, she's really the most passionate yet humble, and she's fun. You know, she does comedy. She could save people's lives because she's a doctor. She knows a lot about cannabis, and also she brings Snoop wine to the party.
To the party. If you're gonna bring something to the party,
You know, if somebody's gonna show up on the
Look
space
at this
shuttle with
cork.
Snoop wine, we're gonna hang. You know, that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I just realized I have a dilemma. Like,
Look at that
and
cork.
this happens a lot. Is like I'm wearing glasses and a hat and a mask and headphones, but I want to drink that wine. Like, how? I gotta figure it out. I gotta figure it out.
They have new masks with straws in it. That's like a bottle.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. This thing unscrewed. Like I don't know what this is, but I just got this.
I don't
Just
know
cut it off.
what that is. That's weird. So you just did a show. You just did a comedy show called Laughter is the Best Medicine.
Yes,
or
Laughter is
something?
the Best Medicine.
And that was a fundraiser. And where can people see it?
So that was a fundraiser for Doctors Without Borders, Art Faber and Denise Medina on Instagram. Get together. They just called me. It's interesting the way it happened because I know Denise, I didn't know Mark, and they're on Instagram with friends. But one of the ladies on the comics that was there, her name is Eugenia. She's a Russian model. She's a comedian, and so somehow I'm in this group of wonderful comics, and they asked me to be on the show. And so it's Laughter is the Best Medicine Part 2. I was the only doctor there. It's not kind of It just happens that there aren't that many doctors who are comedy. And we had fun. We just had a Zoom meeting, and I talked about, being from Detroit, talked about being a doctor in the hood, I talked about we didn't get any masks. So we made our own mask out of paper towels and rubber bands,
Yeah.
and staples, and my did little scratch
Are you
marks.
still in a hospital regularly?
No, I'm in a private practice.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Right in the hood. And then I talked about the protesters and the kids, and I was part of the like as a card carrying member. So remember
Cynthia has.
they didn't carry cards,
Cynthia
it was
is
guns.
an onion. Cynthia is an onion. She has a million layers. Ask NASA bosses, space bosses.
Yeah, space bosses, you got to take them.
Yeah, I'm also going to shout out to Snoop. We're drinking your wine,
Yes.
and we're pretty sure that Martha, and you'll have to tell us, please, somebody send this link to Snoop. Ask him if Martha and him, does she make awesome medicals? Because we want her to bring them on the show.
we would like
Yes.
them to choose a book to read and
Come on the
And
show.
come on the show.
with
What we
medibles. And
With
this
medicals.
this wine is pretty good.
It's
And
so good.
Yes.
Smooth. It'll be good. Like
look
if
at this
Martha
cork,
can make like
too.
a nice cannabis sauce, like some sort of like bourguignon sauce.
Yeah. Oh
with
yeah.
cannabis in it.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're trying to get Chef Gigi. Do you know Chef Gigi?
No.
She's a trader. We've been trying to get her on for months and months. Things happen. The author we were going to read. Do you know T-Barb? Comedian?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so T-Barb wrote a book called Favorite of the Year.
Yes.
Me and
My
her.
girl.
Okay.
Shout out to T-Bar. Yeah.
Oh, so if you've read it, you can come on because it's supposed to be me, T-Bar, Gigi.
Okay.
But if you want to come, it was like first the dates wouldn't happen, and then we couldn't get, and then somebody gets stung by an insect, and then it was like so anyway, now we're trying to get, but she's going to bring on some good stuff.
Okay.
She's going to bring on some good medicals, but. Martha, that does not mean that we don't want you. Martha Stewart, you're totally welcome in Redford. I think it's right up your alley, Martha. And Snoop, please come on the show and read whatever. We can read comic books. We can read recipes from Martha's cookbooks. Yes. We can read Snoop lyrics. We can do all the above. We can do Snoop lyrics and recipes and children's like nursery rhymes. I want to read nursery rhymes with Snoop while eating Martha's medicals.
That's right. That's that experience with the astronaut outside. I don't want to come back.
I don't want to come back. This is the best ever.
Yeah, the best ever.
So please hear out Shelley, and if you're listening, we'd really appreciate it.
I know you're probably
one time, Snoop, I snuck into this concert for collecting signatures. We can talk about it on that show. I'd love to tell you more. But
you snuck into a Snoop concert?
Yeah.
Oh,
back in 2016 or 17.
Oh yeah, nice.
It was a good time.
How'd you sneak in?
We'll tell Snoop Dogg, but it had to do with it was at the Masonic Temple in downtown Detroit.
Yeah, I snuck into Oprah's party back in the day.
Oh, that's cool.
Oprah's, and I sat next to Stedman, and I'm like, why am I here? But it was so much fun. It was in Chicago at the Navy Piers.
Of course. Yes, of course. So
I snuck into a NASA launch.
Add Bandit to. Wait a minute, I said something about onions. She's an onion. She's got all the layers. Oh, something that they talk about with NASA that you don't hear about ever is like that they miss food. So there's a story of like they were supposed to be growing the onions and seeing if the onions would sprout in space. But what happened was they got the onions and they opened them and they were so excited about the smell of onions that they ate them.
That's right.
They ate them. They were just like, oh no, we're gonna eat these.
Mission control. They're okay. They're okay.
Yeah, they're sprouting. Doing great.
I like the part where there was like a astronaut has like a food stick like inside the like helmet, and it's kind of like they said it was like made of like a fruit roll up or something. But it was right next to the water, so it become this like goopy mess that you'd like wipe across your face.
Yes. And there's one where they, because astronauts drink Tang.
Yes.
That's known
Yes,
forever.
right.
Astronauts drink Tang.
Right.
Drink your Tang, kids.
That's right.
Be an astronaut. Do you have Tang at your house at all times? Just practice.
Not anymore. Is it still out there?
You should get some.
It's still out there. It's on the bottom shelf. I was a grocery manager for several years. I know this. There's at least one row.
That's right.
The astronaut supply.
Astronaut paraphernalia, Tang,
Dang.
condoms,
People would show me their astronaut map and they point to the Tang and I'd be like, aisle 3, bottom shelf.
Well, he says that they're asking him, like, what does it look like out there? And he's like, mostly Tang. They put like a Tang thing in his helmet so that he can drink Tang, but also it's spewing out. And so he's looking out of space.
The orangeness.
Yeah, but he can't see anything but Tang. There's a lot of, here's something, because we don't have that much time. Here's something that
We only got a couple minutes left.
There's this whole chapter about people that train just by laying down. Like they're trying to see how the body does in sedentary, like just laying down.
Right.
And so for a while, and maybe they still are doing this, they describe this guy who I'm like, I think I know this guy. This guy like was an actor, but he needed to save some money and he could make $17,000 in 3 months for just like basically lying still. And they check his body for like, how does it work with everything? Yeah. And then he went and he's like, well, maybe I'm going to go do this next. And maybe but you know that guy who's like, hey, I guess next week I'm going to start laying down for 3 months for $17,000. Right. And then after that, I'm going to start my hot dog cart. And then after that, I'm going to go to Broadway. You know what I mean? They got to plan.
Yeah.
You got to plan. You got to have multitasking.
They got to plan. Yeah. But that's part of NASA studying. Without using actual astronauts, just studying bodies of like, you can't move, this is what we're going to feed you, what happens to your body if you just do this. So, oh my God. So I'll let everybody say something to wrap up, but there's so much about this book. If you love, if you think, or even if you've got like a young person in your life that might want to read about science, but they want something fun, okay? Mary Roach, any of Mary Roach's books are so good. And it's not like, you don't really feel like you're not reading like a medical journal.
Right.
But her research is so good and you learn so much. And so check out Packing for Mars, check out Bonk, check out Stiff, check out Gulp. Just, she's awesome. So check out Mary Roach. Packing for Mars specifically, if you've grown up with like astronaut fantasies like Cynthia Shelby Lane. If you're looking for a certification doctor or advice or anything about the future or a comedy show.
How to Live to Be 100.
Or How to Live to Be 100, Cynthia Shelby Lane. And if you know anybody at NASA, or you know Snoop Dogg,
or Elon Musk,
anybody, then we would like to connect you. We'll do it just real quick via text. Like you send me Elon's text and I'll connect you with Cynthia and we'll get them on the same page so that she can go to space. Any final thoughts on being an astronaut or wanting to be an astronaut or when you're going to apply next or what you hope to do once you get there? Or?
So I'm going to DM Elon again and tell him to watch this show.
Okay.
And then I'm going to call NASA and see when's the next recruitment for volunteers. And in general, I flew on a plane for the first time in my life when I was 6 years old. And they just started passenger carriers. So I'm old. And my parents.
Also, if you want to talk to us about skincare, great. Because I'm like, you keep telling stories.
You're older,
like you're older than your skin is, and it's pissing me off.
So I got on the plane by myself, and my parents sent me to North Carolina to visit my aunt who's still alive. She's 95. And on the way back, the plane was not supposed to stop. It was nonstop. One of those old things out of, what's the airport, Willow Run? Yeah. I didn't go out of Metro, so I'm old. I have evidence of that.
Whoa.
And then, then the plane stopped and everybody got off. And I told the flight attendant stewardesses that time, my parents have got rid of me. I'll never see them again.
Oh my God.
Said, oh, you're all right, you little 6-year-old black girl. You'll be okay. And I came home to my parents, and that's when it started. I even actually applied to be a flight attendant over and over again. So the spirit of me is flight. That's it.
Wow. Have you ever done any past lives hallucinogenic work?
Not yet, but I will.
Because I feel like there was something about flying
Yes.
or something, you know?
Somebody did tell me I was the court jester to the pharaoh, but I don't know. I don't know if
Whoa.
that's true.
It sounds like if you're gonna have to hang out with a pharaoh, I'm assuming he's a little bit brutal, asshole-ish, a little bit. So
Yes.
you may as well be the court jester.
That's right.
Because I feel like
It kicked butt.
sure, you were awesome at it. You were so good at it. I bet.
Oh, this was so much fun. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We didn't even talk about Project Barbecue where they roasted the pigs and ate them after they done the experiments. We didn't talk about all the like cells. They've done experiments where they let just see how dirty an astronaut can get,
Yes.
where like their underwear disintegrates
Right.
and their
Yes.
shirts disintegrate, and like they
Yeah.
test different types of. And I could really relate to those that chapter because I bathed I did today for you two friends.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're
We
welcome.
needed to know that.
But like I learned a lot. So read Packing for Mars, Mary Roach. Colin, any final thoughts, sir?
Check out the book. It's really easy to read and it's fun. The stories that are like in it, and it's really funny. And
Yeah, it's really funny.
it's not like serious, but it is serious. You know.
Yeah, it's a completely different take. If you grew up thinking like the right stuff with astronauts or taking the astronaut thing very, very seriously, it's a humorous.
It makes them human, like
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
like we think of astronauts as like more than human.
Yeah, and really it's
Like
like
a brain surgery.
they
Yeah.
puke, they
Yeah,
puke, they have sex, they miss
Yeah.
onions.
stuff
up.
gets on their face.
What was it?
Like,
They do origami and they don't finish. on
yeah,
time.
Yes, they're not good at
Origami.
origami. They're stressed out about the same things, and
That we are.
it makes it just like, oh, this is funny. This is a funny job, you know. And we have these highly trained scientists measuring like how much sebum comes off of a body,
Right.
or how much earwax, or how much the weight of your organs
That's
at
right.
different like speeds and things like that. It's pretty
When am I
fascinating.
going to vomit?
When am I gonna vomit? What does it take? What does it take? If you, there's even a spot for you if you just like roving around in the desert doing testing. Yeah. So kids, maybe Cynthia can start a kids cannabis space exploration camp
Easily.
in another life.
Yes.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Or in
five,
this one.
five more
Or at
lives.
the same, yeah.
I'm Morris.
Well, I'm just saying
Morris the
she's
cat.
gonna have like 10 more
10 more
lives
lives.
in the middle of this one. So thank you so much for doing the
Thank
show.
you.
So fun. I love it. I think Facebook Live actually worked today, which means my computer works. Yay, new computer.
I only have Rocket Man still.
No, we're gonna just keep playing Rocket Man. I swear I uploaded like 4 songs and he can't find any of them. But you remember David Bowie's Space Oddity, right? That's a good one.
Well, think of that one.
Ground control to Major Tom. It's okay. We're still gonna play Rocket Man. So sorry, we keep playing Rocket Man, but it's so good. It does talk directly about space, so I think we're good.
It does.
We're good.
It definitely
So this is Reads and Weeds. We're recording at CRB. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Cynthia, Shelby.
Thank
And we
you.
gotta clean up, and we'll talk to you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay.
We did it.